Welcome to Fresh Off the Boat. My name is Arjun Seth, and I'm delighted to host this event with Vanishri Goel. She's a student we at EdBrand worked with a couple of years back, and she's currently at the USC Marshall School at USC in Los Angeles. So, Vanishri, the first question to you is, how is it like settling in a large campus environment in LA? And what are the resources you started using in your early days in your first year?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. At Brand, it's been a huge part of my college experience and college life, so I'm glad to be a part of this in any way possible. I think USC definitely is a big school. It's like we have about 20,000 undergraduates. So when I went there, I definitely experienced like uh, a culture shock to start off with, but then also things like there were so many kids. So I was like, how do I adjust? How do I start making friends? And I think the few things that I started off with was USC hosted a whole ton of welcome week events for all freshmen who came in. And I think while a lot of kids weren't really interested in joining them, I personally felt like those events would be a great way to actually meet new people and get to know more about the university. So I made sure that I registered for every single event. It definitely is a task because you have to sit and register for every event, pick and choose the topics that you're interested in because there's a whole variety of options. But I think it was really interesting to see so many different things that I hadn't been exposed to within Indian education system. So I personally loved that. And I went for all events, made a lot of new friends. I decided that I felt like a little kid going all the way from India to a US university all by myself. So I made sure that I connected with my professors a lot so that they sort of helped me in this journey and have a personal connection with them so that I can take a lot of advice from them. So these are some of the resources that I started with. That really.
Wonderful. And how did you then start moving in your major? Like Marshall is obviously a specialty business school and quite a coveted one at that. Uh, Obviously, there'll be extremely talented students there doing interesting things. How does a business school at the undergrad level work?
Okay, so business schools, the one thing that I learned is that they're super competitive. I mean, as compared to any other school at USC, I've realized that when it comes to grades and when it comes to kids being very driven and competitive, USC Marshall is extremely competitive in terms of that. And I think most of the business schools are. So USC Marshall is really known for its business administration and management course for its freshmen and for its undergrad basically. So I decided to pursue that and I'm currently enrolled in that as well. It was initially very challenging for me because I feel like I felt like everyone's so competitive around me. How do I get the correct GPA? And I never really understood the importance of GPA to start off with. But I think gradually everyone starts understanding things around them and starts finding their own place. So I realized that okay, it's hard to get grades here because there's a whole Marshall curve, which is that whatever grade you get is not based on just your individual score, rather it's based on what how your whole class performs. So that's where I started understanding how the US education system works and definitely understood that okay, business schools are competitive. Even if people feel like our course might be simpler, they are a lot more to handle with overall.
So, which are the courses that you started really enjoying, and what are the concentrations within business that are available, and which ones did you pick?
Yeah, so I think personally love courses like organizational behavior and leadership because the professors are absolutely fantastic at Marshall. They don't make it like a very lecture heavy class. It's always based on discussions and group projects. And I think they call a lot of professional speakers from the USC alumni who come and speak to us. So organizational behavior and leadership was definitely my favorite class. And then also classes like marketing and spreadsheet applications. And when I did that class, I realized that data science is definitely something that's coming up and it's the future. And it's really important as a skill to develop for internships and just, post grad and things like that. So I decided to do a concentration in business analytics. You usually pick that when you're an upperclassman. So now when I'm a rising junior, I've decided to do business analytics as my concentration. But the other ones available are marketing and management and things like human resource. So, there are lots of different concentrations, but I decided to go with business analytics because I felt like I want to know more about this and I'm more curious.
Business school education, I'd like to know more, is very practical, right? Like, so you have case studies and role plays and other sort of breakout sort of sessions. What is it like? And how do you explain all this to a student who doesn't know that it's not just coming to class, writing notes, and taking exams?
Yeah, it's definitely not that. So, just like you explained, a business school is not just about going to class and taking notes, but it's about really integrating with the process. Because if you really want to grow in a business school, you have to be very willing to be a part of all the resources that are offered to you in terms of um, there are lots and lots of projects as a business student that you have to do, whether it's individual but mostly group. You have to always make sure that you're collaborating and communicating with all your class members and form groups and do projects together, because that's how you learn teamwork and collaboration, and that's what's important in the business world. And then it's also a lot about presentations. Business school really teaches you how to how to communicate, but then also how to present, because I know a lot of other schools don't really prioritize this, but once you come into a business school, you should be ready to put on your blazer 24/7 and present from one class to the other. It's also a lot about connecting with your professor, because most of the times you'll realize that your professor is not just a professor. He's doing that because he loves teaching, but he's also a professional in the business world. He's maybe an individual consultant or working at a company, so you can really utilize those connections if you want to move ahead in your business.
So, what are the different clubs and organizations that you also joined, which were, like you said, you had this leadership interest and other things. So, tell us more on how you got involved.
Yeah, I think clubs are like the most fun part of college, because that's when you get to really experience the college life and also meet a whole ton of people from diverse backgrounds. So I've always been the kind to be very involved on campus, whether it was in high school or college, because that keeps me going. So I joined the student government, which is the undergraduate student government at USC, and that's the largest organization on campus, which kind of supports all other organizations. So it was really amazing to be a part of that, because you had everyone who was super hardworking around you, and literally you realized how powerful the student body is on campus, because they can literally be the voice of the administration and also of the students. So it was great to be a part of that. And then I love dancing, and I also wanted to be a part of the Indian culture. So I joined a Indian dance organization on campus, because that helped me that helped me stay rooted as well. And there are also a lot of other business organizations, like Marshall Women Leadership Board is like a women in business organization for undergraduate women who are interested in business on campus. It's really, really interesting to be a part of that, because you meet extremely driven and professional women who are so interested in networking and so interested in reaching out in the business world in terms of their professional career, but also in terms of networking. So that organization's really been a huge part of my college experience till date.
Fantastic. So, going to the US as a woman from India, and I'm aware that in the limitations that women face in India, there is some sort of baggage that you might have carried. I don't know, but how did your perspective about women and women in leadership change by joining such organizations?
Oh yeah, that's a wonderful question. I think especially because I'm coming from a joint family and a very joint traditional Hindu family back here in Delhi. And my grandfather was obviously not ready for the fact that I'm going all the way to the US for my higher education, because he felt like I'm just a 17-year-old girl and I should be here, I should be with the family. But it was quite hard to convince him, and I'm so glad he's finally on board. But it's really different to be a women leader in the US, because I feel like, unlike India, where a lot of stereotypes and a lot of barriers are something that we're supposed to face in our everyday life, whether it's in our professional world or even at home, it's not like that in the US. Every girl who you meet in USC or maybe in the US is so driven to actually make a mark and do something for herself and follow her dreams and her ambitions. I mean, I personally know that I'm a part of a women in business leadership organization on campus, so I I know how many Indian girls actually end up joining that organization, but also how many who end up getting rejected because some feel so underconfident about themselves, while some feel like they can really make a mark in the business world. So they show that passion. So it's a whole lot of feelings and whole variety of different kinds of girls who end up coming to college and end up showing their passion. But what I personally learned is that it's phenomenal to be a part of the whole women in leadership and women in business kind of network in the US, because if you realize that all companies these days also have a women diverse group now. So you can always end up joining a women network force in a company if you end up recognizing as that. And I personally do. So it helped me realize the power of standing up as a woman and wanting to establish your place in the business world.
Wonderful. So delighted to have sort of had this chat with you. The other thing I wanted to know was the concentration in the business sort of major innovation and then the digital entrepreneur program at USC. How does it work? What are the requirements? How does it connect with the Viterbi School in Engineering and all of that?
Yeah, so I remember that when I was going to college, you always told me that even if you're doing a business major, you can always pick up an interesting minor or an interesting double major. So when I went there with a very open mind that I'm really interested in business, but I have so much extra space left in terms of the number of units that I can either just do my business degree and graduate, or I can utilize those extra units left and pick up an interesting minor. So I saw all the options available for minors at USC, and you can pick up a minor from any school that you're interested in, like cinematic arts or Viterbi School of Engineering. And I personally really liked the one that was offered at Viterbi School of Engineering called Innovation and Digital Entrepreneurship. And I decided to go ahead with that. So I've been pursuing that minor for a year now, ever since I became a freshman. But it's been really great because while I'm doing business on one side, I'm getting to explore the entrepreneurship side from a tech perspective. So it's I never knew that you can actually pick up a minor from another school and dive right into that and get to know so much about a completely different completely different field of education and integrate both of your interests together. So I'm learning a lot with digital entrepreneurship. The professors are great. They're
What
mostly
exactly is digital entrepreneurship, and what do you learn?
you mostly learn like there are classes like how to build a high tech startup, or there are classes like feasibility analysis. You are mostly learning that because nowadays everyone's coming up with startups, and startups is known as the innovative space in the future. So USC decided to offer this course where you learn how to create your own startup, but from a digital perspective, from a very tech oriented perspective than just forming a startup that doesn't have tech. So literally teaches you what it entails to actually come up with your pitch deck, how to reach out to venture capitalists to get funding for your startup, how to come up with an idea that how do you decide you want to come up with a startup, and where do you get the idea from, and what kind of team do you collaborate with, and what kind of how do you facilitate your idea into actually being executed. So a whole lot of things like that. And I've just done 1 year of it, so I have a lot more to go. So I'm really excited about it, and I'll definitely share more about it
Sure.
with you.
Wonderful. I'm going to switch gears and get to rapid fire questions. If you were to think about this COVID era and this lockdown, what are the things you wish that you use your time to improve, or you're already doing to, say, improve your health, mental health, and anything else that you have embarked on, picked up hobbies, interests, etc.?
I think the one thing that I'm definitely focusing on is personal growth, which is by understanding myself better in terms of what are the things that I feel like are my weaknesses and what are my strengths, and trying to pick up qualities like that and help myself become a better version of myself each day, because I've never gotten so much time to focus on myself. But at the same time, things that I'm focusing on are helping the community, because I know so many migrant workers in India are homeless, and they're going through a humanitarian crisis. And I personally worked with refugees before I went to USC as well. So I'm still continuing to helping refugees get food and shelter in the midst of this crisis. And at the same time, I realized that, like I said, data science is the future. So being a business student, I'm trying to pick up skills like coding and data science and things like that over this break, because I feel like this is the one time I've got to actually upgrade myself, because companies obviously, it's harder to get internships in this time. So you can actually sit at home and pick up so many different skills on the net. So those are some things I'm doing.
Wonderful. The next question is, if you were to pick three adjectives that describe your strength, so three
Um,
words that describe your strength, which ones would you pick?
I think first one would be extremely passionate. Um, I would say very outgoing and very ambitious. Yeah, those are the three words I would say about myself.
Wonderful. So now I want to reflect and think about advice you would want to give a high school student or a student who's applied and probably got into USC or other colleges and is very confused on how to deal with uncertainty that lies ahead with school closures, colleges not having a plan, and so on and so forth. You're still a college student, so I'm sure you're in the same boat. But how do you deal with uncertainties in life? And if you want to share some experiences which connect the dots, that would be great.
Yeah, I think um, I when I got to know that the whole pandemic is coming upon us and USC shutting down in the middle of the semester, I was really overwhelmed, because I had so much more to do on campus in terms of organizations and applying for internships, because this was my sophomore year summer and I was really keen on getting an internship in consulting in the US itself. But because of the whole pandemic, I had to come back. And I just want to say that the one thing I learned is that we need to keep an open mind. Like we all are falling short in some aspect that we felt like wouldn't be happening if this pandemic hadn't come upon us. I felt like I would have been in the US, I would have gotten a perfect internship, but I'm back here now looking for different experiences here. So we're all undergoing some kind of challenges in our own personal lives and college lives. And the one thing that I've learned, and that's keeping me going every single day in Delhi, is that you just need to be very open about what's happening around you. You need to have an open mind. You need to be positive. I know it's very easy said than done, but if you're open to different kinds of experiences and become flexible with what all you have around you and pick up those resources to actually become a better version of yourself, then I feel like you wouldn't feel like you're missing out on a lot. Because if you feel like that you're not getting your perfect freshman year because of the whole crisis at hand, or you feel like you're not getting your perfect internship, there's always something that you're going to be missing out on, even if the pandemic was on us. So what I would say is that there are so many resources available online. You should make use of them. Try and upgrade yourself with your skills and things that you're not aware of, things that you're curious about. So you should definitely do that. And the other thing is that network. I feel like all professionals are, this is the one time that you've got that professionals are actually free and have time on themselves to actually have personal conversations and interactions with you. They can help you grow as a person. They can talk about their journey and experiences. And I feel like that's helping me so much, because I'm talking to so many different people and just hearing about everyone's experiences and hearing that we're all in the same boat together and we all will come out of it together is just keeping me going.
It was fantastic reconnecting with you, honestly, and hoping for all the good things in life to go your way. We do have plans to organize a few webinars and love to invite you to a panel. We did one on women leadership
Yes.
earlier, and I wish I knew I'd been able to contact you earlier. So thanks again. Till the time we meet again, then.
Yes,
Bye.
thank you so much, sir. And I would love to be a part of anything else. And this was so great. Let's keep in touch.